Hello, this is Josuela Desma with yet another M14 draft. So we're back for our third design and draft, or draft and design. I almost forgot what it's called. And I think I'm gonna, the first draft I spoke about red green. Second draft I spoke about black red. This time I don't want to say force, but I kind of want to talk about blue and white because those are the colors that are missing. So with that in mind, let's talk about Air Servant, which is the card I'm going to take. So Air Servant's pretty awesome. I mean, especially in limited, it's 5 mana for 4/3, flying, and that has an evasive ability on top of flying. So this tap target creature with flying. So that really makes for that makes Air Servant really easy to get through to attack your opponent, and it's good on offense and defense. I mean, 3 mana is kind of a lot to tap a creature, but I mean, on turn 5, it's going to attack on turn 6. You might have at least 6 mana, so you could tap on defense and offense. The only thing I don't like about this card is how splashable it is. If it was 3 mana and 2 blue, I think it'd be better for limited just because it's less easy to splash. Like, this is the kind of card that if I was playing green, I wouldn't be against playing Lay of the Lay of the Land, and Lay of the Land, and maybe even Verdant Haven to splash it because it is that powerful. It's like a very strong card. So let's look at this Phantom Warrior or Tidebinder Mage. Oof. You guys can't see the cards. I'm so sorry. There you go. Alright. Sorry. I didn't notice. But the rare was Lifebane Zombie, which I think is definitely worse than Air Servant, especially because blue is so good. So here... Alright, we have Chandra's Outrage, which might just be the best card. I've spoke about it before. But I kind of just want to stay in blue. I don't want to dip into another color for no reason. We have some fairly decent cards here. I think I'm gonna take Tidebinder Mage because it's a rare. Not because it's a rare, but because it provides a rare effect. So tap target red or green creature an opponent controls. Creature doesn't untap. So it's like the Lifebane Zombie of blue. I just think it's a little better. Or no, it's worse. I mean, 2 blue for 2 is pretty good, but it's actually not that relevant in this limited format. A bear just doesn't do much. But it is good at any point in the game, which I think is important. Sorry, that is my phone. I think it's good at any point in the game, as opposed to Lifebane Zombie. While the 3/1 Intimidate body is still good at any point in the game, the effect isn't good in when everybody's hand is empty. So here I'm going to take Scroll Thief. I think it's an easy pickup here. Deals combat damage to player, draw a card. Very simple, very blue. Although I could see this as a green card because a lot of card draw is tied to greens. A lot of green card draw is tied to its creatures. But that being said, Ophidian, for anybody who's played for a long time, will know that like this ability was originally blue and still is blue, as you can see. Okay, so here we might be looking into taking a different color, mainly because there isn't much. But that said, this pack is weak overall. I think the strongest card is Plummet, but that's a strong sideboard card. It isn't necessarily a strong main board card. Spore Mound is okay, but I wouldn't move into blue. I wouldn't move into green for it. I'm just going to take this Disperse. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Pretty simple. 2 mana. It is straight tempo. This is the opposite of card advantage. You're sacrificing cards for time. So if I play this 2 mana spell to bounce my opponent's 4, 5, or 6 mana spell, I'm up on time. So I could play, my 5th or 6th turn, I'll play this, and I'll play a 3 mana or 4 mana spell. I'm up on time, and that's why these kinds of cards are good. Alright, so it looks like blue's open, which is very good. Messenger Drake is one of the stronger uncommons I've seen around in this format, especially in the core set. For anybody who played Ravnica, Return to Ravnica, there was that 2/2 flyer for 4 mana that when it died you drew a card, and you were okay to have that card. It wasn't great, but the fact that they added an extra mana, an extra blue mana, um, to give it +1/+1, a 3/3 body is so much more relevant than a 2/2 body, especially because it has flying. That means the evasiveness is even more important. And again, this is just adds to the card advantage theme that blue has as a color. You just always want cards in your hand. You always want to control things. And in that same vein, I will take Divination here. So Divination's pretty straightforward. Play a card, you draw 2 cards. While not normally great in most formats, this format is slow enough, and I know I spoke about how slow the format is last video series, that you could spend your 3 mana drawing 2 cards, against almost any deck outside of the most aggressive, usually red and green deck is the one that has the biggest beaters. But outside of that, you're pretty helpful. I mean, you're pretty good against most decks just playing that. Also, red and green, got it covered. Alright, so here, Elvish Mystic is the strongest card here. Might be a sign that green is open. I'm actually going to take this just, because if the signals say green is open, I should be in green. But I've spoken about that card. Have I? I don't remember. Probably should. But, we were talking about tempo before, like Disperse. This just basically adds another, gives you an extra turn's worth of mana for 1 mana. So you jump from 1 to 3 to 4 to 5, which is really good. Okay, so no blue cards, so that's actually a bad sign. So what are we going to take here? Brindlebore is actually just not good because, like I said, the 2/2 body is fairly terrible, and for 3 mana, it's just so underwhelming. I mean, yeah, you could sacrifice it to gain 4 life. But that's not worth a card. You shouldn't really just play that. I think I'm just going to rare draft. Alright, so here we go. Okay, so it does look like green is open. I think I'm going to take Mana Weft Sliver for the same reason I take Elvish Mystic. I mean, one caveat is that it adds blue mana, which is nice. I think, let's talk about Dawnstrike Paladin. I like this card in the beginning, and I don't like it as much, which is funny because I thought the format was faster. 5 mana for a 2/4 lifelink Vigilant sounds like it does a lot, but because boards stall out so often, by turn 5, that kind of card generally just does nothing. Alright, here's actually a perfect card for red-green. For blue-green. So 2/1 flyer for 3 mana. It's actually okay. You're not the most excited, but you will almost never cut it because it's a 2-power flyer for 3 mana. But when it attacks, you jump a creature, you give it flying. That's a perfect strategy for a green deck because green decks are known for their large creatures. So if I play like a Rumbling Baloth, which is a 4 mana 4/4, turn 5 I'm attacking for 2. I give my Rumbling Baloth wings. I'm attacking for 6 in the air, and that's pretty hard to beat. Here I'm just going to take a negate, counter target non-creature spell. I might main it. I'm not against it because there's actually quite a bit of removal in this set. You have Chandra's Outrage, Shock, Doomblade, Quag Sickness, Liturgy of Blood, and that's only 2 colors, and that's just off the top of my head. Cards like Plummet, Negate does a lot, and when you're kind of trying to just get ahead in the air, and stall the ground, a well-timed removal spell can really halt your offense, and I think something like Negate and Ranger's Guile really plays against that strategy. You have a 3/3 flyer. I mean, so let's say I have a messenger drake in play. Yeah, it's great if it's not great if it dies, but I'm okay with it because I draw a card. But if I'm winning the race, I'd rather it not die. So using a negator Ranger's Guile is actually pretty good. Okay, man, let's talk about. I'm gonna take a Rumbling Baloth. Let's talk about Seraph and the Sword because it is a sweet, sweet card. So 4 mana for 3/3 flyer is a great deal that you usually don't see that. Um, and the fact that it's very easy to cost, like if it was double colored, it'd be much harder to play. I mean, not so much that you wouldn't pick it, but you know, it makes a difference. But second line of text prevents all combat damage that would be dealt to Seraph of the Sword is the most important. So it'll never die in battle. So you can swing with it without fear outside of like Celestial Flare, but if you're playing white, you're probably the only person who has that card. And if they stabilize, it's a chump blocker forever, and it could really gang up with other creatures, gang block with other creatures to destroy your opponent's creatures, and it really just complicates a board. And it's a great card. I think if I didn't have all these other pretty strong green cards, I would actually just play it because I think it's a great card. So here, strongest card is Banisher Priest. I mean, we opened a great, like a, I wouldn't say bomb, but we opened a very, very good white card, and here we're past the Banisher Priest, so that may mean well, actually, that doesn't mean white is open, because we opened the white card, and somebody could have gone, an uncommon was taken from here, so somebody could have taken a stronger uncommon in their colors. Here, I think I'm going to take Sensory Deprivation. It's a solid card. It -3, -0, just basically halts a creature's offense. And for 1 mana, it's very cheap and it's very efficient for what it does. I like it better in a blue-white deck because there are more flyers. In a blue-green deck, it's less good, but I don't think I'm gonna move into white. I don't think that's what. Okay. So here we have quite a few cards. There's another Rumbling Baloth and a Hunt a Week. I think I'm going to take Rumbling Baloth because I have Elvish Mystic and Mana Weft Sliver. So getting this guy on turn 3 is so good. A 4 mana on turn 3 is huge. And there are very few creatures that can deal with it. So I'm going to take that. So let me talk about Hunt a Week. Hunt a Week is actually just, I wouldn't say a pet card of mine. I don't really necessarily like it, but I think it's awesomely flavorful. So put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then that creature fights a target creature you don't control. So you make your guy stronger by 1, and ideally you kill an opponent's creature. I like it because it gives you an incremental advantage that lasts beyond the turn you play it because it's a +1/+1 counter. And it's just fun if you both have like 3/3s and you're like, oh, Hunt a Week, my guy's a 4/4, kill your 3/3, and now I have the biggest guy on the board. You know, that kind of give and take kind of play. It's just fun. I really like that kind of design. Here, I'm gonna take Root Walla, and I know I've spoken about Root Walla before. You know, it's a 2 mana 2/2, 3 mana 2/2, becomes a 4 mana 4/4. It's gonna late game, blah blah blah. I'm gonna talk about Planar Cleansing. I like to talk about the rares just because they're seen less often. Destroy all non-land permanents. Basic board wipe. I think they printed this, or not. I think I'm pretty sure they printed this to also deal with planeswalkers because it's destroy all non-land permanents. Other cards like Akroma's Vengeance had cycling, but it destroyed specifically enchantments, creatures, and artifacts. But that was before Planeswalkers came out. In terms of limited, 6 mana is a lot, and white is weak, so it could lead to some pretty devastating blowouts. But I think for the most part, it's not something you're actively looking, and the 3 white makes it very hard to cast. So here, no blue cards, which is kind of unfortunate. Blue might be overdrafted. Also, there's a 4-3-2-2. I think you saw that, but this is not an 8-4. The 4-3-2-2 is the quickest to fire. Um, so here the choice is between Trollhide and Advocate of the Beast, and I like Trollhide, but I'm liking it less and less, and I already have 2 Rumbling Bailouts. So I think I'm just gonna take this Advocate of the Beast. 3 mana 2/3 is like not the most exciting thing, but you know it's better than I think it's better than a 2 mana 2/2 like a Voracious Worm. I really don't like Voracious Worm. So here it's a pretty crappy pack actually. I think I'm just gonna take a Brindleboard. I think it could be a sideboard card for like really aggressive decks or the most aggressive decks. It's okay. I think it's better than this guy. 7 mana 5/5 is just so underwhelming, and you could get better high end creatures. Um, so yeah, Vial of Poison is a card that looks cool, but it's actually just worthless. You never want to sacrifice a card just for something as bad as Death Touch. Here is another pretty bad pack. Alright, so let's look at this card. Savage Summoning. Savage Summoning can't be countered. The next creature card you cast this turn can be cast as though it has had Flash. That spell can't be countered. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. I'm going to take this just because there's no other option. This is literally the 2 cards I was not happy to take either way. This card's not that great. I mean, if it said draw a card, it'd be amazing. But it's a pretty narrow hoser against blue, and it can sometimes ambush a creature. I'm going to take it, I'm going to leave it in the sideboard and think about it against maybe red, green, and maybe white. I think blue and black, it's trickier to play against just because, blue has counters and black has unconditional removal. So you don't want to play this card, try to ambush them, and then they Doomblade your creature. You basically just spend 2 cards for their 1. Here I'm gonna take. It's actually tough. I think I'm gonna take a cancel. Giant Spider's good, but I'm blue, so I don't think I need as much defense against flyers as Giant Spider gives me. 2/4 is okay. It's not that great a body. It's a great defensive body, but I think a Seacoast Drake is pretty comparable. Mainly because the Seacoast Drake can also just get in there. If they don't have flyers, they could just plink away for 1. And the 3 toughness is relevant. A lot of flyers are 2 power until you get to the bigger cards. Okay, so here. Staff of the Mind Magus or Lay of the Land, there is like a mono blue deck that you play Staff and you just start, gaining life and eventually overwhelming the opponent. That's with like multiple divinations and opportunities. I don't think this is that kind of deck. I'm just gonna, go for the gusto and pick up the planes. Alright, so here's a Verdant Haven. It's okay. It's not even okay. It's pretty bad. I wouldn't play it here. I'm gonna take it over the Zephyr Charge because if there's a possibility that I, open a bomb rare or get past a bomb rare that's splashable, I might play the Verdant Haven. Maybe that like Devout Invocation. Tap your creatures, put X for angels for each tap creature, something like that. Fog is pretty terrible. It's okay. I would say it's good against like Active Treason, but it's not because if you're playing Active Treason, then you're usually just gonna sacrifice a creature because it's red and black. Here's actually a choice. Elixir of Immortality goes into that in that deck that you kind of just recycle and gain life. But again, it's good if I have a bunch of divinations and other draw cards. Vial of Poison, I'm just gonna take. I'm not gonna play it. If you had a deck like full of First Strikers, then you might play it. But creatures just trade so much more often, and it's an onboard trick. So like nobody's gonna attack into like my giant spider and allow me to use a violet poison. Yeah, it's just not that great of a card. You know, it's fun. It's nice casually. It's flavorful, but outside of that, it's just not. It's so low impact that it does nothing. And I think that's kind of what this format is about. It's just high impact cards, and that's why a 2/2 for 2 just does nothing. It gets blanked by all these 1/3s and 2/3s, and there are multiple 2/3s in this format. Even black has 2/3s. All right, so here finally have a pretty okay card in Claustrophobia. Actually, it's way more than okay. It's a straight up removal spell. So blue has had cards that say enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step, especially for 3 mana before. The biggest line of text here is when it enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. That means you don't have to get attacked before you can play it on a creature. Also, you can play it offensively, which you've never been able to play before. So like if I have a 4/4 and my opponent has like a 2/2 and a 3/3 out, you know, tap your 3/3, attack with my 4/4. It gives blue a different dimension and a different kind of play. I don't know if I necessarily like it because like when I think of aggressive, you know, blue is like the last thing I think of. But I think it still feels blue enough that I can accept it, and I'm gonna take it because it's a good card. And it's really the best card in the pack. I think after that, Marauding Maulhorn might be the best. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. So, alright. So here is quite a pick. Oh, did I not take it? Oh god, I took a Corpse Hauler. Fudge. I thought I'd right-clicked it. That's really bad. Okay. That's okay. Ugh. That really sucks. Oh, man. Alright, we'll get over it. So, there are basically 2 picks here. One is Essence Scatter, counter-target creature spell. It's great on turn 2. It's great every turn after that. The only thing I don't like about it is that you have to leave mana open. And I think my deck is pretty tap-out heavy. And I also think Clone might just be a stronger card. I mean, you just play it as the best creature on the battlefield. So that could be like Rumbling Baloth or another Messenger Drake. And I think it's a very flexible card. Even against like your opponent's bombs, you know, they play a Seraph of the Sword. Well, I'm gonna have one too, something like that. All right, here, I could take a Woodborne Behemoth because it's really strong, but I'm actually gonna take a Divination, just because that card is sweet. I really like drawing cards. Man, I can't believe I didn't pick Claustrophobia. Well, that's okay. So if I had like multiple divinations and maybe even like an opportunity, I could think of playing the Staff of the Mind Magus, mainly because Staff of the Mind Magus triggers on a resource that is finite, in that a blue spell and or an island are cards in your hand, and you only draw one each turn. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily play even if it was a 3-mana artifact that said at the beginning of your upkeep gain 1 life. That's not great. But when you have multiple things that draw cards, you're just spending cards to draw cards, so you give yourself resources. So you might, you know, over the course of the game, you're playing way more cards than you normally should be. So that's why that strategy kind of works. So here, this is a pretty good pack overall, actually. There's Deadly Recluse, a Manawef Sliver, and a Vastwood Hydra. I actually think I'm going to take a Vastwood Hydra. I could be wrong. Deadly Recluse and Manawef Sliver, especially with 2 Rumbling Baloths, are really good. But for that same reason, Vastwood Hydra is also pretty good. And I also have Divinations, so I'm going to be drawing lots of cards. I'm going to have lots of lands in my hand and at my disposal. Having this Mana Sink, which is what it is, it's pretty good. I mean, it's a scaling creature, so it's flexible. But you know, at 5 mana, it's a 3/3. At 6 mana, it's a 4/4. So it's not that great at either point. When it dies, you distribute +1/+1 counters among your creatures, which is really important. And I think that's also why it pushes it over the top. Mostly because I could just play it on my flyers and make them fairly large. Large flyers win the game. Here, I don't know if I want to take Sporeman or Rootwalla, but I think Rootwalla is just better, like way better. I was also thinking this is also why I took Clone over Essence Scatter, because cards like Rootwalla, I'd be happy getting another one, but that allows me to use my mana, so it's an awkward situation to have Rootwalla up for blocking. Then I use an Essence Scatter, and I only had 2 mana up. Then he knows he could attack through it. Yeah, I don't like that. All right, here I think I'm actually gonna take a Giant Growth. I have about 15 creatures right now. This just lets me get through for 1 mana. I don't think I need 2 negates. I have a cancel. I have a negate. Giant Growth is something an effect I don't have yet, and it's good to play at least 1. Some people really like it. Some people play like 3 or 4. I'm not that eager because I don't like having lots of cards that depend on you having a creature in play. Here I'm gonna take Trollhide. I don't like this Cancrix. 2/5's okay if you need that kind of a defensive ability, but we're not defensive. We have 4 mana 4/4s. We have mana excel. If my deck was blue and white and I just tried to go over the top by attacking in the air and stalling the ground, this would be a perfectly fine card. Trollhide, on the other hand, lets my ground guys get through, or just lets me put, Trollhide on a Messenger Drake. I have a 5/5 flyer that can regenerate. Like, how do you deal with that? It's very hard. Here I'm going to take Hunt the Weak, but I'm also going to talk about Dismiss into Dream. I think this card is playable in the right deck. Each creature your opponent controls an illusion in addition to other types, and has, when this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. That means every bounce spell, every Giant Growth, every sensory deprivation, even their pump spells don't work. Anytime their opponent's targeted, it dies. And also plays a pretty nice combo with Zephyr Charge, which is that blue mana enchantment that for 1 in a blue target creature gains flying, and it doesn't say target creature you control. So if you have those 2 cards into play, you just pay 2 mana, and it basically means destroy target creature. That kind of card is reserved for the most slowest of matchups. The most slow of matchups. But it's nigh unbeatable, I think, when you have both of them in play. Here, I'm actually pretty happy taking a Spore Mound. Again, I have Divinations. I have Mana Excel, so getting this guy out early, or even turn 5 and just starting to play a bunch of lands, that gums up the ground. That gives my flyers a lot of time. Here, at this point I wouldn't mind taking Staff of the Mind Magus, but I don't have that many blue spells. I'm actually just gonna take Fog. Fog can be good in like super racy games, especially if they don't see it coming. Wow. This is a gift. Man, I wish I had Claustrophobia. God, wasted my first pick. Okay, well, I think our deck seems pretty good. I really like it. Train Condor is actually a really good card in our deck. Rumbling Baloths, Hydra, Spore Mounds, even Root Thief, Rootwalla. Scroll Thief, sorry. Tidebinder Mage, solid card, multiple Mana Weft Slivers. I think our deck has a lot of power in it, and it's great. So Should be pretty easy build. I have 2 Verdant Havens and only 1 off-color card. That's pretty good. I think we're in the right colors. Definitely green. I mean, Mana Weft Sliver, what was that, like 11th? 10th? That's crazy. That shouldn't happen. 1, because it's a Mana Excel, and 2, because it's Sliver. People like playing Slivers. There's a maybe. So, I said I might play this, but I didn't bank on getting so many playables, so there's a good chance this won't make it. Oh, excuse me. But these are cards to consider for sideboard, especially Plummet. Alright, so Messenger Drake, Air Servant, Clone. Clone, I think, also is pretty good in our deck because of, you know, we have high impact creatures. Yet, like, playing just another 4/4 is great. Playing another Air Servant, even another Messenger Drake, that's really good too. Train Condor, Scroll Thief, Divinations. I'm probably gonna play the Sidebinder Mage. Definitely playing Cancel. Alright. Wow, look at this. 23. And we have playables still. Alright, so this card I definitely don't want because I have a Giant Growth, but I can see it coming in as a replacement for Giant Growth against like Red Black or something. Like something that has a lot of removal spells. So because I'm green, and it seemed green was wide open, so not many people were green, I think it's very easy to leave this card out. Just because it's more likely to miss than not. I didn't get any other beasts, but I think that's okay. I think 16 creatures is good, and I don't want to go under that. Can I play 16 lands? 16 lands with a Mystic, double Mana Weft Sliver, and double Divination? I think I could. And because of that, I'm going to play Disperse over Negate. Because if I'm going to spend my early turns laying these guys down and divining a lot, then something like Disperse can just get me back into the, like, can catch me back up into the board presence of the game. So like this sacrifice, this is anti-tempo. I'm gaining cards at the cost of time. So this is kind of just like balancing my deck out, just so I don't fall too far behind on the board. But you know, I could easily replace Disperse with Negate. You know, I think having all these cards, even a Fog maybe, and even a Cancrix, I think if an opponent has a bunch of X2s or just a bunch of ground guys, this Cancrix won't be terrible. But you know, having many sideboard cards is a sign of a really good deck. Not of a really good deck, but of a powerful deck, because you could just, you know, this is a solid 24, and to be able to take out cards and put in cards that you think are stronger makes it even better. So I'm pretty happy with this. 7. Well, let's see. I think so. I think this is okay. 8/8 seems safer, but you know, I want to have my Slivers and my Mystic as soon as possible. And Slivers tap for blue. They tap for green, but when you have them out, that means you have green already, so it doesn't matter. So yeah. Alright. Wish me luck, and I'll see you for round 1. Oh, can't not put this in.